Hello everyone, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we are talking about book trackers. So basically, I just wanted to sit down today and talk about the 3 different apps and websites that I use to track my reading throughout the year. I've never really gone into what I use. I sometimes mention it in videos or vlogs, but like I want to at least show you like what I use and why I use it. 2 of them have an actual website as well as the app that I sometimes do go in and use on the computer. The other one I'm pretty sure is just an app. So I'm going to show you the things on my phone pretty much. These are all things that I use, and I think the first one is probably things that people would very much know and have heard about before. It's Goodreads. Goodreads is something that I know a lot of people have been switching away from. It is owned by Amazon now. I don't think it was way back in the day. I started using this back in 2012. Like, I have been using it for so long now. Like, I have thousands of books on that website, on my tracker. I have always used it. I've always used it for the like reading challenge, and lately they changed the reading challenge look on my phone on the app, and I'm not too sure I like it because now instead of just going straight into the reading challenge and being able to see everything that I've read that year so far, I have to like click into stuff to actually get the books to pop up, which is not my favorite. But this is also the one that I have the most like friends and social aspects to it. I don't always use that, but I will like see what other people that are my friends or that I'm following is reading. I'm sure people do the same thing with me. People like that, oh, you're reading that or you've reviewed that. I do find this one to have the most socialization aspect to it. This is also the one that has the Goodreads Choice Awards, which has been, again, changing in the last few years and making it not as good as it used to be. Like, they took away children's and picture books and poetry and a lot of stuff that I don't think they should have taken away, and they did. And so while I do have issues with this, this is my longest standing reading app, and so I definitely do use it. This is usually the one that I use to find new books sometimes. I do use their giveaway section, and I've, like I said, have been using it since 2012. On the computer, it actually takes a little while to load, more than it does any other of these apps, or on my phone even. When I go into things, it does take a little while. I don't know if it's just because the server's not the best or because I have so much stuff to load sometimes. But this is like my main thing with all of my shelves, everything that I have like ever read. I can show you just a little bit of like the look of the shelves here, but like I have things that I've read, things that I'm currently reading, things that I want to read, and then I have like things separated into if they have like an LGBTQ character or if it is sexually explicit, and then like genres, fantasy, romance, things like that. Like, I have a ton of shelves on here that I don't think I would have the same experience necessarily trying to put these all together on StoryGraph. I know you're supposed to be able to export your stuff onto StoryGraph, but I don't think I will ever necessarily stop using Goodreads because of the fact that I'm able to find a lot of the stuff here. I also do their giveaways quite often. I haven't won anything in a while, but I have won things in the past. I've just been using this for so long. I have so many friends on here now as well. Like, this is definitely the app that has the most social aspects, like I've said, and so I will always check stuff on Goodreads. Like, I have, it says 240 friends on here, and I think part of it is people requesting to follow me after seeing videos on here. I will always post my reading and stuff. I have tons of reviews on here as well, from when I used to like fully do reviews in the past, and anytime I do an arc, I'll do a review. One of my goals for this year is to post a review for every single book that I read, so sometimes you'll get my thoughts on a book before you even see like my wrap-ups for the month, because I am posting that kind of stuff on Goodreads as I go. But yeah, this is a standard site, a standard app, I want to say. They used to, I think you still can, like if you're searching up books, you can actually scan, hello, the book cover or the ISBN, and it'll pull up the books for you. Like if I'm scanning this book right here, it does pull up that it was Fourth Wing. So like, you don't necessarily have to just type in stuff. I think that's a feature that not everybody necessarily knows. And so yeah, I've just been constantly using that. They always have like the 2025 reading challenge. They have your 2024 year in books. I say 2025 because that's what we're currently in. 2024 is because that's what we had previously. It'll have your pages read. It'll have the shortest book, longest book, the one that like the most people shelved and the least people shelved. And so I'm just really into not changing too much. So Goodreads is something, like I said, I have been using for over 12 years now. I started in 2012, I want to say early 2012, probably like in January or something of that year. But in general, you can see here the different challenges. I don't know why we have this like weird thing here, but like all of my reading challenges go back there because that's when I started and I used it for the whole year that year. So I don't think I'll ever get rid of Goodreads unless something really changes, but like I have so much stuff on here, so many things to track. Like I want to know everything that I've ever read pretty much. And like even I have things on here that I've marked as read from before 2012, but like this is my longest running book tracker. And so I definitely use this all the time. I have lists on here of like things that are on my TBR. So like when I go to a bookstore, if I find a book that I'm interested in, I can actually double check if it's something that I already have part of the series or if it's something that I've ever heard of before. Cause I definitely had times in the past where I would go to a used book sale and find a book, and if I don't look it up, it might be book 3 in the series. And so I can double check on Goodreads. Like every single book pretty much is on here. It is one of the biggest ones. I know some people will also use it to sync with their Kindle. My Kindle is on a different email than here, but I also share my Kindle reads and things with my sister, who's only like 4 years younger than me. So I don't have it do that, but I mean like there's other features you could use on Goodreads as well that I don't. The second app is StoryGraph. So I started StoryGraph last year in 2024. I'm going to be using it again in 2025. I do really like this one as well. I like that it has a bunch of graphs. I like that it is like a small business. It is owned by a Black woman. I think it's a very small company, like not company, but like the amount of people that run this is very small. So like we had a big influx of people stepping out of Goodreads or trying StoryGraph at the beginning of January, and like the app was down a little bit. It was harder to use because of that. Like this is a smaller company, but I have really been enjoying it. They've been rolling out some new features for it as well. So like currently I have some current reads that I'm pretty much going to DNF all of these just so you guys know. But it has like a reading streak. That's not something that I've seen on Goodreads. And so my reading streak, I think that is actually correct right now. That's the first time I've seen this like in an app like this. I have my to read pile, but because again, I'm not tracking everything, taking it from Goodreads to StoryGraph, my to read pile right now is my 25 books to read in 2025, just so I have something on here that I know I need to read, but it's not something that I'm actually like having to focus on all of the books possible. Like I'm using StoryGraph as a more like, as I read things, things get added. So as I decide to read a book, I add it into here as a currently reading. I will say if I own it or not, because you do have that option. So let's just say like the book I started last night, which was going to be my buzzword pick, Lies and Lullabies by Serena Bowen. I have it as currently reading. I can actually also hit this 3 dots on the side and say that I own it. And so that'll actually track my owned books. That was something I didn't even realize like why it was tracking it. But when you went into like my end of the year 2024 things, it actually stated like what things I had read that I owned, which is interesting because I do my own reading trackers, like spreadsheets and things, which I'm not necessarily going to talk about in this video unless you guys really want to look at that. I can always bring that up later. I was talking about separate apps and trackers and things like that. So I track things a lot of ways, but I liked that it took into account what I owned. I will say Goodreads is better with the amount of editions of books, like this one by Serena Bowen. All of the editions, there's only like a couple like paperback editions. I think there's a couple audiobooks. There's some that I guess have a different cover and title, but there's only like 5 or 6 total for this one, whereas Goodreads actually had more. I don't know if that is like user added, because I think both websites and both apps allow users to update things. Goodreads does have the Goodreads librarian group, which has more permissions for things. So in case something is wrong and you can't fix it yourself, you can ask them for it. But a lot of these are user added. So there's that. I know StoryGraph does have an AI feature that you can turn off. I do not have it on right now, but it will sometimes have a summary, and it really is just an AI generated summary of like what is already in there, because it already has a description. It also shows people that I follow, if they've interacted with the book or not. The thing is, there's not a really good way to find other users to follow. So like if I go into my friends and following, I have 3 friends and I'm following like 6 people, because these are people that have had the link to StoryGraph in their YouTube or Instagram or something like that, where I've been able to find them. It's just not as social. People aren't like commenting on other people's reads. Like, it's just not really a thing. So like, I don't use this one to be social really. I use this one for the tracking and graphs. So this is going to be for January. We're in 2025, we're in January. It has my streak. Again, like I said, the streak thing is new. Current streak and longest streak are both 7 days. And it has my goals, my reading goals for pages, which is different than Goodreads. Goodreads, as far as I know, and as far as I've ever been able to use, is just for books. So I have books and pages. StoryGraph also does not track DNFs. Like, you can do DNFs and it goes to a separate area. So when you go into your goal, the goal is not going to be the same. Like, I've had more DNFs this month than I had almost the entire year last year. I don't know if I'm just being picky or what, but they're not counted in StoryGraph. They're somewhere else. Whereas, like, I do want to mark that I attempted to read a book and I did not finish that book. So in Goodreads, it'll go toward my reading goal because I want it to be in my stats in that way. So they do have it separate that way. So I actually will look at my reading goal on StoryGraph to double check what my actual goal is and like where I am without those DNFs. And then they also have that page number, which I like. They also then have average time to finish a book, the moods, which right now my top one is adventurous, the pacing, the page number count of the books, if it's fiction or nonfiction, the different genres you have, and they will sometimes have multiple genres per book, the format it was read in. That I do find isn't exactly correct for me, because I am more focused on the actual page number of the book than the format. So if one format says ebook, but the page number is actually closer to my physical read of it, I'm going with that ebook format because the page number is correct. Again, it's because Goodreads has more editions available than StoryGraph does. Most read authors, I only have read 1 book from each author currently. I don't have any duplicates yet. And then it will have a chart for all the months of the year. Again, I do my own spreadsheets with charts. I use a Cawpile spreadsheet and a couple other ones from different people that I've put together and like then added some of my own stuff. Like, I have a lot of different things now. So I don't necessarily need these graphs, but I really like them. And it also has my average rating. And again, because they don't have my DNFs, my average rating is much higher right now on StoryGraph than before. And then we can also view the graphs for that month. Like, we have calendars and stuff. Again, this is stuff that they added, I want to say about partway through the year last year, because it was not something we started with, but we do now have. So January is basically over. I've basically read everything that I'm going to read. So I'm going to show you guys my January graph right now. It says 8 books. I think it's going to be the same because currently everything that I'm currently reading is very possibly going to be a DNF. I'm just having a great time finding new books. It has 8 books, 3,159 pages, average rating 3.94. Some of my highest reads, the genres that I had highest, and then like my little chart for pages read, those will change a little bit. And then we also have like a calendar part that I really love. It'll show you like when you've been reading things. So you do have to go in and track the pages every day, like update your reading, which I don't mind. I didn't really do that too much last year because, again, last year was my first year actively doing StoryGraph. But you will be able to see here on the calendar the books that I've read. It'll also mark if I DNF something on here. It'll show all the different things that I am currently reading or like how many days it took. You can see the little lines go through. Like, this is stuff that like Goodreads could never do, you know what I mean? So I 100% use StoryGraph for the graphs. I copy paste all of my reviews from Goodreads to here, but I have more people, I'm pretty sure, seeing my reviews on Goodreads. Like, I definitely think Goodreads is more of a review site, a social site as well, than StoryGraph. I'm not necessarily going to StoryGraph to see reviews. Like, if I'm looking for a book, looking for an average rating, I also think that there's more users on Goodreads. So like, if I'm looking for a book that has an average rating and that kind of stuff, I am going to Goodreads. Whereas I'm going to StoryGraph for all of the different charts and things like that. And then the last app that I wanted to talk about is Bookly. Bookly is an app that you do not have any socialization aspect whatsoever. This is purely between me and the books. This is an app that I actually do pay for an annual fee. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. I can look that up if needed. And this is the reason is like, if you want to try it out and you're only reading a few things, they have a like free version that only has like 10 books at a time or whatever it is. And I don't know what that means. If you can only keep 10 books and then you have to get rid of them. I read way more than that and I want to track my stats way more than that. So I do pay for the yearly thing for this. Now, this is something that tracks your reading speed, and I use this every single time I read a novel. I do not track my reading speed for graphic novels or manga because I am obviously much quicker with those. I do not use that. But it has all of my books. So as we go down, I'm currently reading Lies and Lullabies. It shows your last book read, which is, this is the one I was reading last night. I did 54 pages in about 30 minutes. If I go into that book, it'll tell me if I read at the same speed, I will finish that book in 2 hours and 22 minutes and 44 seconds. And it is almost always exactly right. I absolutely love that fact because sometimes I do want to read a book and like, you have to start reading at least one book first for it to give you an estimate because of different sizes of text and things like that. But I like to know, hey, I only have 2 hours left in this book. I can finish it right now. Or, oh, my bedtime's soon, but I can read this in about an hour. Might as well. Like, I absolutely love that. That's one thing I like about reading ebooks as well. And like on the Kindle app, you can actually see, based on your reading pace, how quickly you should finish the book. So that's basically doing the same thing here for physical books. I also use it with my ebooks, even though I do have that option on Kindle to track it. They're almost always exactly what it should be, which I love. You can put as many categories as you want. They have to read, reading, and finished, and those are basically, if you add a book into the app, it'll mark it as to read. If you are currently reading it and say you're reading it, it'll mark it as reading, and then as soon as you say that it's finished, it'll mark it as finished. Those are things by itself. And then you have like a shelf. I'm currently in my January 2025 shelf. I have 3 things that I'm currently reading, plus I put Iron Flame in there because I do think I want to read it. But so you have all of that. You also then have all your other shelves. Sometime at the end of last year, they changed it to this like face out format, whereas everything previous to this year was just like lines and rows. So I don't mind it. But basically I have been using this, as you can see, all of my shelves, since actually up here, January of 2021. So I have everything that I have ever read as a novel since January of 2021 in here. And it also has goals. You can set a daily goal, you can set a monthly goal, you can set a yearly goal. I don't use these as much because I'm basically using StoryGraph and Goodreads as a main, here's just my reading goal. These are like, if you want to try and set a goal to read a certain number of pages every single day, obviously you can do that. You can also set it up to remind you to do that. Again, I don't do that. I hardly ever go into the goals section, but then they have stats. I'm always going to the stats. They also have a calendar in here because of the fact that I don't track comics or graphic novels or manga in here. The calendar doesn't show those on there. So like on January 5th, I actually did read a comic collection. That's not in here. I want to say January 12th, I also read one. And so those things aren't in here, but every other day they have it in here. They'll also show your rating if you have that in there. I like the fact that they have a calendar. They have their own readathons every so often. So starting January 29th, which is in 2 days here, they have a page 1 Bookly readathon where you just are supposed to read for at least 10 hours over however long this readathon is going to be. It's from January 29th through February 9th. I don't actually know how much that is. 12 days, something like that. And then you have prompts you can use if you want to. This readathon has a book with a mesmerizing cover, a book with first or one in the title, a book you've started but never finished, a book you've been meaning to read for forever, and the first book in a series you want to read in 2025. So like, it has things like that. They pop up like once a quarter or so, every so often, which I just think it's fun. They have overall reading stats. So for the last 30 days, here's what my pages read looks like. Here's what my time read looks like. You can also go into the last 7 days for time read and then pages read. Like, I just like the fact that they have those in there, and they track your overall reading progress. And as you can see, you can actually pick by year. I could pick like last year, what did it look like? Or I can pick so far this year, what does it look like? So far this year, I've read 2,528 pages, and that is correct for novels. 29 hours. My speed in pages is 87.2 pages an hour. 6 books have been read and like I've finished them. Again, you can abandon books in here, which are sort of like a DNF. I don't think they fully count for everything. My best read day in pages was 264 pages. My best read day in minutes was 171 minutes. Longest reading streak has been 7 days so far. Total reading days, 21 so far. And my average book rating for the novels that I've read are 4.42. And again, that doesn't count any DNFs. But so it has been tracking all of my reading, my speed of reading, which is what I usually use this for because it's very, very accurate. Once I start a book and it gets that speed there, it knows how long it's going to take me to finish as long as everything pretty much stays the same in that book. But it's been tracking my speed since January of 2021. So in that time, I have read 107,340 pages, 1,144 hours total. My reading speed on average in pages is 93.8, which is pretty accurate. Depending on what I'm reading, I can get up to 100 pages an hour or more. If it's like middle grade, I can definitely get over 100 pages an hour. I read a lot of adult stuff though. That stuff does not always get me that quick. I've read 320 books in that time. Again, novels, not including any comics, graphic novels, or manga. My best read day in pages is 449. What day was that? Because that was a lot of book. Best read day in minutes is 252 minutes. Longest reading streak was 28 days. Total reading days was 883, and my average book rating is 4 stars. So in general, I read good things. But so this is something that I use for me. They have an assistant on here, but I want to say it's not anything that I ever go. I don't think I ever go into here. They technically have levels and points that you can get. The points basically just get you outfits for your assistant, or you can customize what your Bookly app icon looks like on your phone. I never use that. That's here in the store actually. So they have all these different things. Sometimes I've earned these costumes by leveling up. Sometimes I've earned these costumes by doing readathons. I have never personally paid for any of these things. Same thing down here. Even the active icon right now is just the one that came because it was winter time. And that's like the normal App Store one. I have 74,785 gems. I don't need those. I guess you can get those and use them if you're not on the like premium where I pay for this app to get all the benefits of reading books and putting a bunch of books in here. But yeah, that's the last app that I use. I mention this one a lot when I'm doing vlogs. I will be like, oh, I'm reading this book and my Bookly app says I have 2 hours left. This is the app that I'm talking about when I mention that. It tracks my reading speed. That's pretty much what I use it for. So those are the 3 main reading apps, reading trackers that I use. Goodreads, because I've been using it for forever and I have thousands of books listed on there. And I've heard that you can transfer stuff to StoryGraph, but it doesn't always do it the right way. And I just have so much stuff on there. I don't think I could ever not use it. Also, it definitely has the most socialization aspect. I use StoryGraph for the charts. I absolutely love the charts. I liked starting off last year and only putting stuff into it going through the year. So that's what I'm going to be doing again this year. Anytime I'm reading something, that's when it's going to go into StoryGraph. But I do find it harder to find people on there. All of my links to Goodreads and StoryGraph are down below. There's no socialization aspect in Bookly, so I use that for me, myself, and I to track my speed in books. That's pretty much all it is to use it. And like literally, I'll show you guys. I wasn't going to, but if I was going to be like using this like a normal day, like let's pretend I was going to read Lies and Lullabies again, I would actually just hit continue reading. It pulls up this tracker. You can then add a quote if you find a quote that you like, add a character and put information in there, add a thought, add a word. You can pause it in case you need to get up and do something and you don't want it to keep counting that you're reading and then come back and resume. That's usually what I do. And then you can stop when you're done. I'm not going to save my session because technically I'm not reading, I'm just showing you guys. But so that's all I use Bookly for. I use it to track my reading, for it to tell me, oh, you have this much time left in that book, which I love. So those are the 3 apps I use, 3 major different reasons why I use them. Let me know if there's any other apps you guys use down below. I did consider starting to use Fable this year to try it out. However, after the whole 2024 reading wrap-up AI scandal thing, I was just like, maybe not. I'm already using 3 different reading tracker apps, plus my own spreadsheet. I don't think I want to get into that. And so yeah, if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more videos. I do have videos coming out Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, so I will see you then. Bye.